Good Monday morning. Welcome to Shields and Arrows, where we defend the faith, the family, the fellowship. I am Pastor Mark Baze. Thank you so much for joining us. It's great to have you. Now, you may notice I may have to sniffle, cough a few times. Just the cooler weather's got, me under the weather. But hey, a little bit of a sniffle cannot stop us from defending the faith, the family, the fellowship, okay? So thank you all for joining us. Now, I do owe you a big apology. I don't know what happened, but yesterday morning when we went to live stream with our new internet at the church, something crashed. I think it was because there was some software that needed to be updated, and so we have since done that, and I think it's going to run and work well for us, okay? So just stay tuned. It's always a work in process. With that, you remember days when we had a lot of trouble with this stuff. Now, maybe we'll have trouble today. I have no idea. But we'll get the church whipped into shape. And so with that, the services, we didn't have good audio. Things certainly did kind of struggle. So with that, I thought, you know what we're going to do? We're going to kind of rehash a little bit of what I talked about Sunday morning in our Sunday morning service. So with that, if the Sunday school lesson kind of ran a little choppy, then I've got it recorded and I'll be able to upload it for you with a good, consistent recording. But the Sunday morning one is just about shot useless. We had some bad audio issues going on as well. So hey, it is what it is. We're working through it, fighting through it. But thank you for being with me, fighting with me as we stand for good, sound doctrine. Okay, now you know the spill. I'm going to tell you about our Bible conference that is going to be the last weekend of March. All right, so March 28th through the 30th. Starts on a Friday evening, all day Saturday. Wrap it all up on a Sunday morning service. I would love for you to be there. Be getting in touch with me. I've already had a few reach out to me about potential possibilities of staying maybe with a host, but also if you have questions about whether it's hotels or RV parks or anything like that, please be sure to let me know because we want you here, okay? And if not, hopefully by March, I mean, that's still a decent ways out. Hopefully by March, I'll have the internet running as it should be. So maybe you'll be able to watch it live, okay? And if not live, certainly recorded. That's always the plan, always the objective. So with that, that's what we have going on. Not sure if I'm going to have a Wednesday night service. We're getting ready for our Christmas cantata, so the choir is going to be doing a rehearsal that night, and I am in the choir. And so no promises on Wednesday night Bible study. I'll let you know one way or the other. Okay, so with that, thank you all for joining us, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're on Worshipify. So let's talk about this matter of is Christmas Christian? Now, I think if you go back to Worshipify, you can hear like more of a sermon format on this. As a matter of fact, let me see if I can pull it up for you because I did preach on it a while back. Let's see here, and you do have to go way back, but I don't know. There may not be a sermon on this. I don't think so. I looked up on Worshipify to see if it was there, and I didn't find it. Yeah, I'm not seeing it on Worshipify. So with that being said, this may be all new material for you, okay? This is obviously the Christmas season, this time of year. There are always those. Most often, they are secularists, and they want to levy all sorts of accusations against Christianity, all right? You stole, you robbed Christmas from pagan origins, pagan practices, okay? And probably the not most Christian response, but most understandable response is to say that your mom has pagan origins. But instead of getting down in the mud and throwing how about we analyze the facts here, okay? So are these accusations true? And there's a number of different angles they attack you from, whether it is Saturnalia, Sol Invictus, some supposed mythology regarding Horus, the Egyptian sun god, Mithra, a Persian god, as well as Nimrod. So with all that being said, I want us to investigate the matter. I want to kind of clear the air, set the record straight. We'll also talk about the dating, December 25th, and the importance of that, the significance of it, and why I think it's a great date. The date of December 25th, I'm not dogmatic about it. I'm not going to break fellowship with you over it, but I will tell you this: do not be so quick to give up on December 25th being the birth of our Savior, okay? I would caution you, because I think it's a good date, actually, that can be argued and defended. Now, with that, I understand there are some Christians out there, good, faithful Bible students, even some right dividers who don't agree with the December 25th date. And I understand. We'll talk about it, right? Now, with that, an interesting thing is, while it is a lot of secularists, a lot of atheists that want to track us down and attack us for decorating a Christmas tree and having the presents and all the fun and events that go on with Christmas time, December 25th and whatnot, there are some Christians who want to recoil at that as well. And they say, no, hold on. We do not want to pervert this idea of celebrating our Savior, taking on flesh, being born of a virgin, fulfilling the prophecies. And we want nothing to do with the commercialized, secular, pagan practices that is the Christmas season. I actually have a great admiration for them because they talk about defending the faith, the family, and the fellowship. I mean, my goodness. Being willing to give up something that is so foundational to American culture, even just church culture. I mean, goodness, every church has a big Christmas candlelight service, right? So for them to be willing to say, we will give up anything at the drop of a hat if it is perverting the gospel, perverting the faith, and we can do better. I have so much admiration for them. What I would like to do is not backhand them, smack them on the back of the hand and say, shame on you. What I'd like to say is, I fully understand where you're coming from, but I think that you have been given some bad information. And I think that if you get the whole story and you're not just hearing what the secularists are jabbering about in your ear, then you will realize that I don't think there's anything fundamentally wrong with the way we celebrate Christmas. So unlike the sermon, in the sermon, I kind of kept, hid the ball a little bit, but that's because you kind of have to. You got to keep the audience engaged. It's like a soap opera. What's going to happen, right? What's going to happen at the very end? Is he going to come out and say we got to tear this tree down? Is he going to come out and say that this Christmas season is pagan practice and shame on us, you child of the devil? But with you, I think you probably already know because you've done a lot of investigative work yourself. Also, maybe I'm being arrogant, but I think you like to watch the show because I'm looking at the people who do tune in, and you are interested in what I'm doing here. So I don't think that I'm having to fight to keep your attention. So I think I'm just gonna be able to be upfront about it and just say, yeah, I am pro Christmas. I'm pro all of our holidays that we observe. Just as a culture in Christianity, times of celebration and joy. I am pro Thanksgiving. I am pro Christmas. I'm pro Easter. And so with that, obviously there's some things maybe that we could do better about, okay? I'm not telling you that every single Christmas practice is just as gold as it can be, right? Maybe got to be careful what you're mixing in with the eggnog there. But with that being said, let's talk about the accusations levied, and then we will talk about the facts, all right? So, facts don't care about your feelings, to quote a famous Jew, Ben Shapiro. Now, with that being said, one of the major accusations is if you do a Google search. Christmas, they claim, originates with the celebration of the winter solstice. The winter solstice marks the shortest day of the year. And so with that means the sun is going to begin to lengthen in its shining, and the days will get longer, and we are headed towards springtime and planting and harvesting and all of those great things. So in our modern calendar, if we're talking about the winter solstice, it's going to land somewhere between December 21st and December 23rd. Let me just look at our calendar right now and see what day the winter solstice is this year. And I'm looking. I don't know. This calendar's so basic on the computer. I don't know if it even tells me. I'll do a Google search. What day is the winter solstice? So it's going to be the December 21st this year, right? Shortest day of the year. Now, with that, that's the accusation. Christmas originates around the celebration of that winter solstice. You know, ancient civilizations, they paid very close attention to the lengths of days, in the position of the sun, the moon, the stars. I mean, they probably paid just as much attention, if not more, than what we did, or what we do today. There's a lot of speculation. Ancient structures like Stonehenge, the Gosex Circle, and others, maybe even the sun, or the sun, the pyramids are theorized to be built in commemoration of the solstice, right? How they're oriented with the sun and everything. So civilizations like Rome, for example, they had the celebration of Saturnalia. So you have winter solstice, you have the Romans celebrating Saturnalia, and the Roman celebration of Saturnalia lasted from about December 17th through December 23rd. Now, Saturnalia, I will tell you, does, from what we understand in actual historical documents, predate the birth of Christ, all right? So you can actually find historical evidence of Saturnalia being celebrated and observed in the 1st century BC, okay? Now, keep that in mind because that's not going to be true for some of these others. And Rome also had Sol Invictus. It's a celebration of the sun god, Sol, and it was observed on December 25th. Now, that's another accusation levied against Christians, right? You Christians stole Sol Invictus from the Romans, and you just turned this pagan celebration, this Roman celebration, into Christmas, okay? It's what you did. You, as Dr. White would say, I think I saw him on Worshipify with us this morning, you're Johnny-come-lately to the party, all right? You are borrowing and stealing, kind of like Kamala Harris stealing all of Donald Trump's ideas on the campaign trail. Anyways, I digress. And so scholars, they propose that obviously you got the winter solstice, December 21st to the 23rd. You've got Saturnalia, the 17th to the 23rd. Sol Invictus on December 25th. Isn't it obvious? It's clear. It's undeniable. You Christians, you stole Christmas. It's not the Grinch that stole Christmas. The Christians stole Christmas, and you stole it from these pagan practices because you wanted to have your own Christian celebration. So you said, we're just going to say Jesus was born that day. That's the accusation levied against us. So, first of all, let's talk a little bit about this celebration of Sol Invictus, the Romans, the sun god Sol. That it's said, right, they say, and it's some speculation, right? Where did it come from? Obviously, I think we would agree that the Egyptian and Persian civilizations predated the Romans, at least as far as prominence and power and influence, certainly, but maybe even just as civilizations as a whole. And it is speculated that that celebration of the sun god came from the Egyptians, the Persians, who celebrated the winter solstice as the idea of the sun is being reborn, right? The resurrection of the sun. The sun is being, the sun is coming to save us. It's being resurrected. It was waning, but now it's going to increase. It is going to bring sunshine and planting season, all of those things. Now, if you go down the rabbit hole of the sun god Horus, right, the Egyptian sun god, I have a reticle in my scope called the Horus 59 and the H59. And the reason why it's called that is because the Egyptians use the sun for measurement, and a reticle you can use for measurement. I better not get on that rabbit trail about shooting rabbits. But with that being said, The Egyptians, the claim is this Horus sun god, thousands of years before the birth of Christ, all right? Thousands of years. They associated the sun with a messianic figure, all right? This is the claim. If you scour the internet, you don't have to go far. If you start reading the Reddit pages and some of the modern edgy atheist websites, they will say that the Egyptians, long before the Christians or early Jews had any idea of a Messiah, a messianic figure, the Egyptians already had one. And he even had his own disciples that he taught and traveled with him. And so therefore, not only did you steal Christmas, the date of December 25th and the celebration, you stole the idea of a Messiah and disciples and a resurrection from the Egyptians. That is the claim that's levied and laid against it. And so as we continue to consider this matter, the celebrations of Saturnalia and the winter solstice in a number of different cultures, even like the Norse winter celebration. So now we're getting over into Europe and the Nordic people. Guess what they used as decoration? They used evergreens, right? So evergreen branches. And since all the evidence says this idea of Messiah being born on December 25th, and even the Christians and also maybe some secularists who don't deny that there was a man named Jesus born and he lived in Nazareth, but they calculate his birth to be nowhere near December 25th. All right, so a Christian may say, well, doing the math, Jesus would have been born likely during the fall, maybe even in the spring, but certainly not December 25th. I mean, it could be any other time of the month or any other time of the year, but not anywhere near December 25th. As a result of all those things, the pagan celebrations using evergreens, the date of December 25th having no relevance to Christ, clearly Christmas has been stolen. You Christians who are hanging the green in your church and you're celebrating in the middle of winter, you have been duped into just celebrating a pagan practice because the Christians who came before you just robbed it, stole it from these other religious practices. Quite a serious accusation. If you are not well-read, if you don't know much of the history, you will easily be taken aback and you will not really know how to handle it. It certainly sounds like there's a lot of coincidences there if we're looking at this as a court of law, right? Or maybe the civil court, as Dr. White likes to use in his analogies. It sounds like there's a lot of evidence that is working against us as we're trying to defend the case. No, Christmas is not pagan in origin, and yet here's all the list of the things, all right? Did Christianity and Christmas originate from these pagan religions? That's the question that you want to know. Let's kind of work our way through these. Let's start with Saturnalia. Saturnalia was, first of all, not a celebration of the sun, okay, in its very nature. So trying to take Saturnalia and tie it into the sun god of the Romans, and which relates to the sun god of Egypt and Horus and a resurrection and a Messiah and disciples. You can't do that with Saturnalia. Saturnalia has no ties to any of it. And Saturnalia is actually comes from the celebrating Saturn, the god of agriculture. So it's not even a sun-related thing, a resurrection-related thing. It's an agriculture-related thing. And you may find a few who want to claim that Saturnalia was carried out even till December 25th, but the truth is, it was never celebrated on December 25th. It started around the 17th of December and ended around the 21st, the 23rd. An interesting thing is, truth be told, if you scoured the historical accounts, you can find about any week of the month you're going to find some ancient civilization that had some religious practice during that month, okay? Even the United States. Let's just take our events. January, we've got New Year's. Depending on how significant you make our politics, we're going to have the certification of the electoral votes, January 6th. We're going to swear in a new leader. That's all throughout the month going on, right? This year anyways. And then February, you have Valentine's Day. March, April, you have Easter. June, we have an entire pagan celebration, right? Pride Month, in which people get out and celebrate the things they should be ashamed of. July, 4th of July, as well as just Cinco de Mayo, which is the 5th of May, I guess. But the summertime has its various days and events and orders and whatnot. So all that to be said, I am not persuaded just because December 25th falls close to Saturnalia, that automatically means we stole it from Saturnalia. Because you can pick out any civilization and find some kind of event, religious, whatever, that it lies in close proximity of time. Not persuaded. Furthermore, what about the Roman celebration of Sol Invictus? Because Sol Invictus is celebrated on December 25th. I mean, I'll show you the Google page, all right? What day is Sol Invictus celebrated? All right, here's your here's the Google search and the AI overview. What day is Sol Invictus celebrated? Sol Invictus, the Roman god of the sun, was celebrated on December 25th. Now, quite a strong charge, right? Sounds problematic for us because it's hard to say that's just a coincidence, right? Here's the amazing thing. You will look up, where did Christmas originate from? And they will say it originated from pagan events such as Sol Invictus. Do you know the first time that Sol Invictus was officially declared to be observed on December 25th? 274 AD. 274 AD, well over 2 centuries after the birth of Christ. It's amazing how they will claim Christianity stole Christmas from Sol Invictus. The truth is, the Romans stole the celebration of Christmas and turned it into Sol Invictus. And it was an effort, it was a last-ditch effort by the Romans to hold on to their pagan culture, right? Their polytheism. So the claim of Sol Invictus is absolutely absurd. It is historically verifiably not true. You already had those professing Christ. And truth be told, if we look at our dating, we're going to see here in just a little bit that you had writing almost a century before Sol Invictus was ever even celebrated, testifying to Christ being born on December 25th. So it's a joke. Anybody who wants to claim that Christmas was stolen from Sol Invictus is not well read on their history at all, okay? Not at all. Furthermore, you may read, if you do the searching on the internet, about a Persian god, Mithra. Mithra was a god of light, justice, and the sun, okay? So once again, still kind of tied to that sun-based ideology. You will read, when was Mithra born? Let's see if we can find that on Google. So Mithras, the sun god of the Persians, was believed to have been born on December 25th, the winter solstice. This day was the most important celebration in the Mithraic cult. So there it is, undeniably, December 25th. Once again, the Persians came long before you silly Christians. You have stolen it, once again. So that's the charge. Here's the amazing thing. Let's consider the sun god of the Egyptians again, Horus. The Egyptians, if you were to read, like let's just see here. When was Horus born? Here it is. In ancient Egyptian mythology, the birth of Horus was believed to occur around December 25th, the winter solstice. All right. And then they say his birthday is celebrated in late August. Furthermore, you can read about how was Horus born of a virgin. You do a Google search. Let's see if we can find much on that. There's only some that will make such claims. It's not a main view, but there are some who will try to argue. Let's see here. Yeah, okay. So it's not the mainstream view, but you may see some that try to claim that Horus was born of a virgin. Now, with that, here's the amazing thing. You have Mithra, supposedly born on December 25th. You have Horus, supposedly born on December 25th. And if you look at that, look, once again, you will find where it says the ancient Egyptians. Look. Yes, ancient Egyptian mythology believed that the god Horus was born around December 25th. The ancient Egyptian mythology. Do you know when the earliest writings were written about Mithra and Horus being born on December 25th? The earliest writings, the absolute earliest, 400 AD. 400 AD, 400 years after the birth of Christ. And yet they claim the ancient Egyptians. You will look and you will look and you will not find it. You're not going to find ancient tablets of stone etched into the ruins of Egypt or the palace of the Persian. You're not going to find it. Christianity did not rob from Mithra and Horus. Pseudo-historians who came much after Christ robbed from Christ and made the false accusation, the false claim. So those stories are falling apart, absolutely. Now, while those have been refuted, there is one story that has kind of taken on a life of its own, and it's caused some torment with Christians. And the reason why it causes some torment is it is tied to a biblical character. So if we consider the others, the Roman gods, while referenced a little bit in Acts, the Persians, not much details gone into. The Egyptian gods are referenced to some degree, but as far as an actual figure in the Bible, if we consider Genesis, let me go to Biblify, designed, built by our good friend Nathan. We go to Genesis chapter 10, verses 8 through 10. And Cush begat Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one in the earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord. And the beginning of his kingdom was Babel, and Erech, and Akkad, and Calneh, in the land of Shinar. Now, the interesting thing about Shinar is, that's where the Tower of Babel was built. And the theory goes, and I'm not opposed to this theory, is that Nimrod actually was the one that oversaw the building of the Tower of Babel. You also have this King Amraphel. And if you look at the timing, as far as it all works, Abraham is not nearly as far removed from the Tower of Babel as you'd think. And it came to pass in the days of Amraphel, king of Shinar. Dr. White's talked about this before. It's very possible that Amraphel is Nimrod. Nimrod, I would say, is a type of the Antichrist. God told Adam and Eve, Noah and his family, multiply, fill the earth. But what did Nimrod do, the king of Babel and the other cities of Shinar? He gathered them all in one place. All right, I think that we can build that case from Scripture. He gathered them all in one place, and we said we'll make a great name for ourselves. Otherwise, we'll be scattered throughout the earth. So it was a rejection of God. And what is Satan's game plan, right? He wants to convince man that he can defy God, that he can make himself great. He can go against God's order of creation, God's instruction, and it's his work to manipulate men and tempt them with desire and whatnot. Well, we do have this biblical figure of Nimrod, and there is an author by the name of Alexander Hislop in 1853. He wrote a book called The Two Babylons, and he wrote about this story of Nimrod. And now this has been a long-held story about Nimrod, and so the story originates as Nimrod was actually born on December 25th. So, it's not that Horus and all these others were born that day. Nimrod was actually born on December 25th. Nimrod rebelled against God. Obviously, he desired to be the ruler over the earth. And in this story, this account by Alexander Hislop, if you ever heard the story of Oedipus, married his mother, right? Semiramis. Well, along the way, Semiramis, or Nimrod dies, and after his death, Semiramis saw a dead stump, and a full-grown evergreen tree sprouts up from the stump overnight, miraculously. And so she understood this to be Nimrod's resurrection. Nimrod would come again, right? He would return. And on the anniversary of his death every year, Nimrod would leave gifts on that tree. He would return and he would leave gifts on that tree. And what she would do is on the eve of Nimrod's death, her and the followers of Nimrod would burn a Yule log in their fire, in their house, hut, whatever they lived in. And smoke would fill the room. And when the smoke filled the room, a tree would appear and there would be gifts on it. And the tree represented the son of Nimrod, Tammuz. And this was Nimrod incarnate. And they claim that God warned against the worship and celebration of Nimrod, and this is found in Jeremiah 10. It says, "Hear ye the word which the Lord speaketh unto you, O house of Israel. Thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven. For the heathen are dismayed at them. For the customs of the people are vain. From one cutteth a tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the workman with the axe. They deck it with silver and with gold. They fasten it with nails and with hammers, that it move not. They are upright as the palm tree, but speak not. They must needs be born, because they cannot go. Be not afraid of them, for they cannot do evil, neither also is in them to do good." And it goes on and talks about it and how evil it is. Do not cut down a tree and deck it with silver and with gold. And so that passage is used It's sinful. It's wicked to have a Christmas tree because you're celebrating this pagan practice of Nimrod. And what a great act of deception if Satan could somehow pull off convincing Christians to commemorate the maybe first attempt at Satan to overthrow the world, or maybe second if we're getting theologically here, maybe the fall, or maybe it was the third because you had the Nephilim in the land. With all that being said, where did this pagan myth come from? Surely Alexander Hislop did his research and was able to cite his sources, tracing it all the way back to Nimrod and the Tower of Babel. Not quite so. Alexander Hislop was a Protestant who had a bone to pick with Catholicism. Anybody have a bone to pick with Catholicism? Show of hands. I do. But he was very adamant that the Roman Catholic Church represented Babylon, and the Babylon of Revelation is the Roman Catholic Church. There's a number of Christians that still believe it. And that the Pope was the Antichrist. And it's a view even held by some today. and Christmas was a major, and is for us today, but back then in his day, the mid 19th century, the celebration of Christmas was a major event with the Roman Catholics. And it was kind of it came to be associated with some excessive drinking and celebration and things like that, maybe breaking into the sacramental wine. The Protestants, they did observe Christmas, but they had a much more solemn approach. For example, a lot of schools, like in Boston, didn't even let out for Christmas until the late 1800s because they just didn't want to allow Christmas to turn into some rowdy, perverted event, which, I don't know, seems like probably this time of year there's going to be some not exactly wholesome events held in the name of Christmas. But some Protestants did copy the Catholics in one way. Catholics would put up a nativity scene, and many Protestants, they would put up Christmas trees. And the origin of Christmas trees, it's hard to pin it down where it came from, but we do know one of the very first documented tales of a Christmas tree is in Germany in 1531. This is the same century as Martin Luther and the Reformation. It's just hard to say where the celebration of it was. The whole point of Alexander Hislop, he wanted to defame Catholicism. He wanted to speak ill of it. So while he opposed it for maybe some good reasons, he went about it in an unethical manner and made up a story about Nimrod and a Christmas tree. So he was trying to get Protestants to completely dissociate from the whole thing. And with that, maybe affected by some of the German rationalists of the day who were already trying to attack Christian history and tradition, he tried to associate what he believed to be the unrighteous Christmas celebration of Catholicism with pagan practices with Nimrod. In short, the story is fabricated. You will find nothing about Nimrod and a tree and a Yule log and anything prior to Alexander Hislop in 1853. And yet a lot of Christians have been mistaken and confused and bought into it. As far as evergreens go, find a civilization that has not utilized evergreens as decoration in their house. I mean, I would challenge you to do it. You will find, of all centuries, of all locations, Asia, Africa, Europe, you name it, they've used evergreens to decorate their homes in the winter, because guess what? It's wintertime. The leaves are falling. There's nothing green except for evergreens. So what are you going to do to lighten up your house, to make it look lively? Branches of evergreens. So the claim that you are practicing a pagan thing by putting up boughs of holly in your house, it's an unfair and honestly an immature accusation. Truth is, evergreens play a major role in the Bible. Evergreens were used as decoration in the temple, maybe not the branches, but the trees themselves. We know the cedars of Lebanon were used in the temple. Fir trees were used in the temple. Fir trees overlaid with gold. How does that work? How can you read Jeremiah 10? And then in the temple, they overlaid a tree with gold? Maybe because Jeremiah chapter 10 is about idolatry, building false idols, and that's what it is. Do you know what a lot of Christmas trees are modeled after? Fir trees. The ark was made of cypress. Elijah slept under a juniper. The dove had an olive branch in its beak. Olive trees are evergreens. And just the tree itself symbolizes a resurrection. Job 14:7. Got this passage of scripture here. For there is the hope of a tree, if it be cut down, that it will sprout again, and that the tender branch thereof will not cease. So there's a picture there of, if you chop a tree down, it can still grow. That's why you got to poison those stumps. Otherwise, you're going to have a ton of branches coming off. Psalm 1, Messianic Psalm, speaking of the Messiah as a tree whose leaves never wither. What tree has leaves that never wither? Evergreens. You have the tree of life, Psalm 3:18. The tree symbolizes the tree of life. Prophecy in Isaiah 11:1. There shall come forth a rod out of the stem of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of his roots. Prophecy about David, but ultimately about Christ. Seems to me like the Bible has just as much a claim to an evergreen and trees as anything else. You are not doing a pagan act by putting up evergreens in your house, a wreath or anything like that. The Bible has just as much a claim to it. Furthermore, Semiramis, the supposed mother of Nimrod, she was an Assyrian queen that lived nowhere near the time of Nimrod, so that story doesn't even line up. As far as December 25th, you can do a further analysis if you want, but there are a few things to consider. As far as when Christ was born, I've got a slideshow that I made for a study last year that there's a lot of speculation. And once again, I would say Christians, we got to agree on a few things. We got to agree he must be born. We got to agree he was born of a virgin of the line of David, born in Bethlehem, affirming the prophecies. Things that we know for certain. As far as when Jesus was born, Herod was the king, and then Cyrenius was the governor of Syria. That kind of helps us place a timeline for a few things. The baptism of Jesus marked his ministry. Okay, that's when he began his earthly ministry. He was about 30 years old, Luke 3:23. About 30 years old sounds a whole lot like 29. The Gospel of John, I haven't quite decided where I land on this, but the Gospel of John records at least 3 Passovers from the beginning of Jesus' ministry, maybe 4, right, if we're counting his crucifixion as one of the Passovers. If we consider the significance of 3.5 years, we know the Antichrist is going to carry out his wrath, the great tribulation, upon the earth for 3.5 years. I don't think there's a lot of coincidences in time and numbers. I think 3.5 years would be a very accurate timeline for Christ's earthly ministry. We know Christ was no less than 33 years of age at the time of his crucifixion. Those that claim that it couldn't have been in the wintertime because shepherds were out in the field, they would have been out in the field in the winter, it'd been too cold. Jerusalem's like the latitude of Dallas, Texas. I was out last night. That's why I sound like I do. I was out till midnight. It wasn't that bad. Says if you're a shepherd, you got a fire going, you can easily last the night. The story, about it being in the late spring to summer and Jesus being wrapped in the wool of a Passover lamb, those are nice stories, but you can't just hold to it because it sounds like a nice story. There's some that say Jesus was born during the Feast of Tabernacles. That would have been, he would have been conceived during the Festival of Lights. It's an interesting theory, but I don't think it has any more credibility than what the traditional December 25th view is. So as we consider the possibilities, a lot of early Christians, they debated the birth of Christ, but it wasn't a debate of he was born in the winter, no, he was born in the spring, no, he was born in the fall. They debated December 25th or January 7th. Eastern Orthodoxy still celebrates the January 6th, January 7th date. A lot of early Christians believed that Christ was conceived on Passover. And so with that, it would add to the view of a winter birthday. The earliest writing in history we have from Hippolytus of Rome, which I don't always put a ton of stock in what the ancient church leaders said, but he writes on a commentary in Daniel in 204 AD, for the first advent of our Lord in the flesh, when he was born in Bethlehem, was December 25th, Wednesday, while Augustus was in his 42nd year, but from Adam 5,500 years. He suffered in the 33rd year, March 25th, Friday, the 18th year of Tiberius Caesar, while Rufus and Rebellion were consuls. We have that testimony of Hippolytus of Rome. I could probably share a link with you. If you just do a search for it, you'll find it. Bible Archaeology Society, things like that. Now, is there any more information? We know after Jesus' baptism, he began his ministry, and he started to call his disciples. Now, you couldn't call disciples and be a rabbi until you were 30. And so if Jesus would have turned 30 shortly after his baptism, and he began his ministry some 40 days after being in the wilderness tempted of Satan. So John very likely could have recorded 4 Passovers, and the only way for it to be 4 Passovers is if it was like the halfway point. So the time span of 3.5 years, like I said, is significant. So if the Passover on Jesus Christ's death landed somewhere around March 25th to April 7th, if you subtract the 3.5 years, this would mean Jesus turned 30 during early winter, which once again aligns with the December date. I say all that saying that's not the most analytical, most clear-cut, persuasive approach, but it is a few things to consider. So all that being said, the accusations that we've stolen Christmas is false, and the accusation that there is no reason why you should consider December 25th as the date of Christ's birth, that's false as well. There is reason for both. And so I hope Christians have some backbone and are willing to stand up and to defend the matter. And so with that, probably going to cut the day short, let my voice get a few extra minutes of rest. We'll be back tomorrow talking about matters of the world, because Syria had a overthrowing of a government and the left is celebrating, and I'm not sure about that. Nancy says evergreens smell great. Yeah, olive trees are, pretty sure they're evergreen. Yep. There you go. olivetreefarm.org. or .com. Olive tree characteristics. The olive is an evergreen tree. So there you go. Maybe Nancy can have an olive tree for a Christmas tree next year. There's still time for this year, maybe. All right. Well, thank you all for joining us. I appreciate you all so much for your continued friendship, encouragement, support, interest in our ministry, what we're trying to do here. Thank you all so very much. I am Pastor Mark Baze. This is Shields and Arrows, where we defend the faith, the family, the fellowship. Today, we defended Christmas. So have a great rest of your time. Be sure to call up your family member that wants to challenge you on Christmas and just show them this video, okay? Thank you all. I appreciate you. We'll see you tomorrow.